Diablo 4 has changed the Necromancer for the foreseeable future, and it's for the better because of the Book of the Dead. Now let me explain. This video is a quick summary of the Necro class in Diablo 4 so you can figure out what to play in the upcoming beta and the release of Diablo 4. So first, let's get into the skills of the tree. As of right now, we know the Necromancer uses a one-handed scythe, daggers, wands, offhand, sources, shields, and a two-handed scythe. And the Necromancer's resource is essence. So the first part of the Necromancer skill tree is basic attacks, which is your essence generator. The first skill is reap, and you generate 4 essence per hit. With a sweep of your scythe in front of you dealing 12% damage, hitting an enemy with reap increases your damage reduction by 15% for 2 seconds. And the cool thing about Diablo 4, if you haven't played it yet, every ability comes with 3 passive nodes, and they typically just help out your attack. And you can see the 3 passive nodes on the screen right now. Decompose generates 7 essence per second, and what it does is it tears the flesh of an enemy, dealing 30% damage per second, and here are the passives. Hemorrhage generates 7 essence, and what it does is burst an enemy blood, dealing 25% damage, and hemorrhage has a 20% chance of forming a blood orb, and here are the passives. Bone Splinters generates 5 essence, and what it does is fire 3 bone splinters, dealing 22% damage on each splinter. And every time it hits an enemy, you generate 1 essence. Next on the skill tree is your core abilities. So typically your right click, and you need 3 points to unlock. First we have Bone Spear, and we all remember Bone Spear from Diablo 2, one of my favorites. It conjures a Bone Spear from the ground, dealing 85% damage, piercing through enemies. And here are the passives. We have Sever, a specter that charges forward and attacks with its scythe, dealing 42% damage, and then returns to you and attacks again for X amount of damage. And here are the passives. We have Blight, which unleashes a concentrated blight that deals 30% damage and leaves behind a defiled area, dealing 80% damage over 6 seconds. I'm guessing this attack is poison, and here are the passives. We have Blood Surge. And what Blood Surge does is draws blood from enemies, dealing 20% damage, and Expel a Blood Nova, dealing 50% damage. And Blood Surge's Nova damage is increased by 10% per enemy drained up to 50% of their health. And here are the passives. We have Blood Lance, and what it does is you throw a Blood Lance that lingers in an enemy for 3 seconds, dealing 45% damage to the enemy and all other lanced enemies. And here are the passives. If you haven't played any of the betas of Diablo 4 yet, every skill tree actually has passives. And what they do is they can help your class, they help your abilities, they help with stunned effects, lingering effects, bleeding effects. There's actually 2 on this tree, and one of them is Hued Flesh. The other one is Unliving Energy, and it goes into Imperfectly Balanced. The next on the skill tree, we have Macabre, which is typically your Q or your 1, and you need 8 points to unlock it. And what we have on here is Blood Mist, which is dispersed into a bloody mist, becoming immune for X amount of seconds. Your movement is reduced by X amount of seconds, and you periodically deal X amount of damage to enemies and healing for X amount of your maximum life. As of right now, this is what we know of what the abilities are going to be like. When we get to play the open beta on March 24th, then we'll know for sure what these amount of seconds are. Just remember, this video is here to help you get familiar with the class so you can better pick what you want to play over the open beta or at launch, because if you're anything like me, you don't really have a lot of time and you just want to watch a quick video just to figure out what to play. We have Bone Prison, which unearths a prison of bone with 12 life that surrounds the target for 6 seconds. And here are the passives. We have Corpse Explosion, one of my favorites. And you donate a corpse, dealing 75% damage to the surrounding enemies, and here are the passives. And then also on this skill tree, we have 3 passives that I'm going to take you through. We have Spiked Armor, we have Skeleton Warrior Mastery, and we have Grim Harvest that goes into Fueled by Death. The next in the skill tree, we have Corruption, which is typically your W or 2, and you need 13 points to unlock it. We have Iron Maiden, which curses the area, and enemies that are affected by Iron Maiden take 10% damage each time they deal direct damage, and it lasts about 10 seconds. Here are the passives. Next in the skill tree, we have Decrepify, and what it does is curses the target area. Enemies affected by Decrepify slow by 50% and deal 25% less damage for 10 seconds. And here are the passives. And also on this skill tree, we have 4 passives. We have Skeletal Mage Mastery. We have Amplified Damage, which we all know about that. We have Death's Embrace, and we got Death's Reach. And before we get into the summoning part of the skill tree, which is the most exciting, do me a favor, go down below, hit subscribe, and be a part of the first 1K. I want to hit YouTube partner as quick as I can, and just hitting subscribe really helps out a lot. Thank you so much. Next on the skill tree, we have summoning, which is typically your E or your 3, and you need 18 points to unlock it. We have corpse tendrils, veins burst out of a corpse, pulling enemies, stunning them for 3 seconds and dealing 20% damage to them. And here are the passives. We got Bone Spirit, consumes all your essence to conjure a spirit of bone that seeks enemies. Upon reaching an enemy, the spirit explodes, dealing 80% damage to the target and all surrounding enemies. Damage is increased by 3 times for each point of essence spent casting Bone Spirit. Those are the only 2 abilities on the skill tree. We have lots of passives though. First one we got is Necrotic Carapace, and then we have Reaper's Pursuit that goes into Crippling Darkness, and then you can go on the other side of Reaper's Pursuit, take Gloom. Both Gloom and Crippling Darkness goes into Terror. We have Serration that goes into Rapid Ossification, and then on the other side you have Compound Fracture, and then Avolition. Then we have Gruesome Mending into Transfusion, into Tides of Blood. Then we have Coalesced Blood into Drain Vitality. Next in the skill tree, we have your ultimate, which is your R or your 4, and you need 25 points to unlock it. First ability we have is Blood Wave. You conjure a tidal wave of blood that deals 90% of damage and knock back enemies. Here are the 2 passives. We have Army of the Dead that you call 7 skeletons that explode, dealing 30% damage. Here are the 2 passives. We have Bone Storm, and what it does is swirling a storm of bones that appears around you and your golem, dealing 80% to surrounding enemies over 10 seconds. And here are the passives. And then also we have 3 branches of passives on this skill tree. We have Golem Mastery. We have Standalone into Memento Mori. We have Bonded in Essence that goes into Death's Defense. That goes into Inspiring Leader. That goes into Hellbent Commander. And then after Ultimate, we have Capstone, which is the passive skill tree, which is the 7th one on this skill tree. You need 33 additional points to unlock. You have Ossified Essence, that your bone skills dealing 1% increased damage for every point of essence you have above 50 upon cast. You have Rathma's Vigor. You increase your maximum life by 10% after being healthy for 25 seconds. Your next blood skill overpowers. You have Shadow Blight. And Shadow Blight infects enemies with Shadow Blight for 2 seconds. You and your minions deal 10% bonus damage to enemies with Shadow Blight. And every 20th time an enemy receives shadow damage from you and your minions while they are infected with Shadow Blight, they take an additional X amount of shadow damage. We have Kalin's Edict. After you have not taken damage in the last X amount of seconds, your minions gain X amount of attack speed, while you have the least X minions, and this bonus is doubled. This is kind of a weird one to talk about because we don't know too much about it, like I explained earlier. And on to the next thing, which is everyone's been waiting for, which is the Book of the Dead. And one of the big reasons why most of the classes in Diablo 4 are so special or so much fun to play is because each class has a unique class mechanic. And unique class mechanic for the Necromancer is called the Book of the Dead. So what it is that you have 3 customized summons. You have Skeleton Warriors, Skeleton Mages, and Golems. Each of the 3 summons have 3 specializations. For example, the Skeleton Warriors can be Skirmishers, Defenders, or Reapers. And Skirmishers are the standard warriors, but they have increased damage but reduced health, where Defenders have bonus health. Reapers have slower attacks and deal damage and do an AoE attack in front of them. Each specialized minion in the army has unique upgrades, and you can change them over time, as you can see right here. If you picked a Skeleton Warrior and you went Defender, it would look something along these lines. And if you upgraded it, you could have more increased thorns on your Skeleton Warrior, but it comes at a price. If you sacrifice one of your warriors, yes, you get increased thorns, but you gain a 15% non-physical resistance, but you can no longer raise Skeleton Warriors. So sacrificing and doing certain things comes at a price for the Necromancer class. You can also use your abilities on your skill tree to help you get that personal buff. So all in all, I feel the Necromancer class is this. You have good single target, big AoE, you have minions that do tons of damage, you have movement, but looking at this build, I feel like you could be a glass cannon. But that's all I have for you in this video. The next on the chopping block is the Barbarian. So I'm going to do a class overview on the Barbarian next. And please hit subscribe if you're enjoying this content and be a part of the first 1K. I want to hit 1K really quick so I can become a YouTube partner. So feel free, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with a friend, and comment down below. And if you go to the top right hand corner, you can see a video that I've made in the past. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.